Good morning, everyone. Earlier this week, House Democrats stood on the side of the American people. Every single member of the House Democratic Caucus stood on the side of the American people in opposing the reckless Republican budget scheme. The Republican budget will set in motion the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. Children will be hurt, families will be hurt, seniors will be hurt, everyday Americans with disabilities will be hurt, hospitals will be hurt, and nursing homes will be hurt, all across America. Medicaid is about health care for children. Medicaid is about medical care for people with disabilities. And Medicaid is about nursing home care for older Americans who are trying to live out their golden years with the respect and dignity that they deserve. Democrats will continue to stand on the side of the American people and stand against the reckless Republican budget that will end Medicaid as we know it, dramatically cut nutritional assistance for children, families, and veterans. And we will continue to stand up on behalf of the American people and against the far-right extremism that is being unleashed on the American people by Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and House Republicans. Questions?
Leader, good to see you. Republicans, and actually I would just say the House Doge Caucus this week, introduced a couple of different bills to cut back on waste. One of them is called the Drain the Swamp Act, another the Cuts Act, and a third, the Put Your Money Where Your Mouth Is Act. I don't know if you've looked at any of these, but is there no bill that Republicans put forth to cut back on waste that Democrats could get behind?
Democrats are prepared to identify waste, fraud, and abuse within agencies and departments across the federal government. Every organization, every institution should be scrutinized in a manner consistent with protecting taxpayer dollars. That is not what the Doge effort is all about at this moment. Elon Musk and the Doge minions that have been unleashed on the American people are actually stealing taxpayer data and stealing taxpayer money. Why does Elon Musk need access to the names, addresses, Social Security numbers, birth dates, and bank account information of the American people? He does not need access to it. And why is he seeking it? The House will continue to work hard to block him, and the courts need to continue to block him as well. Elon Musk has about $8 million in federal contracts per day. Per day. The average Social Security recipient in this country receives $65 per day. If Elon Musk and House Republicans are interested in identifying waste, fraud, and abuse, start with his contracts, if this was really a serious effort.
But sir, I'm not talking about Elon Musk. I'm actually just talking about the Doge Caucus, and there are some Democrats that are trying to also work with Republicans. For example, this one bill would ask lawmakers to cut their congressional offices by $100,000 over the course of a year. Does that sound like something?
I have not been briefed on any of these bills. Any effort, for the reasons I just articulated, led by Elon Musk in terms of the Trump administration, and Marjorie Taylor Greene in the House of Representatives, who chairs the Doge Subcommittee on Oversight, are not serious. It's not serious. If you put Marjorie Taylor Greene in charge of the effort, it's not serious.
Leader Jeffries, You said in a statement this morning that any spending agreement has to protect the administration of Social Security benefits. Could you please elaborate on what you're asking for there?
Our position in terms of the budget and any agreement that we reach in connection with the American people has to protect Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, veterans benefits, the nutritional assistance provided to children and families all across America, and the American people. Hands off Social Security, hands off Medicare, hands off Medicaid. That's not a position that is new. It's a position that House Democrats articulated from the very beginning of this Congress on January 3rd when I spoke on the House floor.
Are you saying you want a moratorium on layoffs at the Social Security Administration?
My statement speaks for itself.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. President Trump will be here next Tuesday to address a joint session of Congress. What are your expectations for the address? What are your expectations of your caucus? Can you talk about who you may be bringing? Just kind of flesh out what you're expecting to hear and see next Tuesday when the president.
Yeah, two questions that Donald Trump needs to answer. Why has he failed to do anything to lower the high cost of living in the United States of America? And why has the Trump administration unleashed far-right extremism on the American people in a way that represents an assault on the American way of life? Paul?
To follow up on that, about Tuesday, you were here 5 years ago when he delivered his last State of the Union address. If it's a similar style...
I've forgotten it, by the way.
You're welcome for reminding you. Have you talked at all to your members about how you want them to behave Tuesday night, given how the minority party has acted in recent years?
Catherine Clark, who manages the floor as the House Democratic Whip, is in conversation with members across the caucus, and so that's probably a question at this moment that is best directed to her. Back to this side.
We've seen, Mr. Leader, over the last couple weeks, Trump take a rather aggressive approach to New York State, be it congestion pricing, be it whatever you want to describe what's going on with the mayor. What do you make of that, and why do you think it's happening, and what should Democrats be doing in response to that?
Well, New Yorkers are not going to be intimidated by Donald Trump, the administration, or any of the efforts to try to hurt the people of New York City and the people of New York State. Governor Hochul and Tish James and the congressional delegation, both in the Senate and in the House, will continue to aggressively push back against any efforts initiated by Donald Trump, the Department of Justice, the Department of Homeland Security, or other aspects of the Trump administration to hurt the people we represent. We will not be intimidated, and we will continue to push back forcefully.
Leader Jeffries, Speaker Johnson has made it clear that a CR is necessary to avoid a government shutdown on March 14th. How has conversations been like between the two offices? He previously said that you guys have added or introduced things that would be pretty much a non-starter, like limiting the powers of the executive branch. What are those conversations like? Are you at the table?
Speaker Johnson and myself had not had a conversation about the appropriations bills because those conversations at the moment are being led by Rosa DeLauro on the Democratic side and Tom Cole on the Republican side. We have great confidence in the leadership of Rosa DeLauro to negotiate in a way that is consistent with the values of the American people and the things that matter, which is how do we lower costs for everyday Americans? And how do we protect things like Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid? How do we make sure that people can pay their bills? And how do we keep the American people safe? Those are the core issues that Democrats are working on behalf of the American people. Republicans have the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And as we just saw 2 days ago, Donald Trump managed to be able to convince reluctant Republicans to vote for the largest potential cut to Medicaid in American history. We're going to stand on the side of the American people. It appears that Republicans in the House are going to stand on the side of their super rich donors and wealthy corporations. Thanks. Second row.
2 weeks ago, you set up at the podium that Republicans looked like they were walking away from spending talks. Do you think things are back on track? Are you confident that a spending deal can be reached by the March deadline?
Rosa DeLauro and Tom Cole continue to talk to each other as well as their Senate counterparts.
Mr. Leader, how concerned are you, though, and how concerned our Democrats are, that even if it is what we would describe as a clean CR, that the administration is actually going to spend the money that is appropriated? For instance, if USAID is in this continuing resolution, which right now the administration has defunded, do Democrats need to stand up and put these safeguards in place or put language in this continuing resolution that forces the administration to spend the money that you've
We
appropriated?
will continue to make clear that the law has to be followed, including as it relates to the funding of the Social Security Administration. The American people are understandably concerned, frustrated, angry, scared at the assault that has been unleashed on them by the Trump administration and the far-right extremists in Congress. Congress funded the Social Security Administration so that everyday Americans in their golden years can receive the Social Security benefits that they are owed. By the way, Social Security and Medicare, they are not entitlement programs. When Republicans say they are entitlement programs, it's because they want to cut them. That's what this whole budget scheme is all about. That's what the effort to decimate the Social Security Administration is all about. Social Security and Medicare aren't entitlement programs. They are earned benefits. Everyday Americans have paid in to Social Security and Medicare throughout their entire working life. Every day, every week, every month, every year, their entire working life. House Democrats are going to stand on the side of the American people and stand on the side of Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and the things that matter to the quality of life of the American people. Third row.
Oh,
You?
thank
Yep.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Leader. So is there a world where Democratic leadership whips against a CR if you don't get the assurances that you're seeking, that Trump won't, try and run roughshod over Congress?
Appropriations process at this moment is in the hands of Rosa DeLauro on behalf of House Democrats. Backward.
Thank you. So Republicans have been very adamant that Medicaid will not be gutted by this budget resolution. Where or what is the proof that Medicaid will be gutted by it, if there is any?
Republicans are lying to the American people about Medicaid. The Republican budget authorizes up to $880 billion in cuts to Medicaid by directing the Energy and Commerce Committee to find those spending cuts. Everybody knows who has had any connection to the congressional budget that if you are directing the Energy and Commerce Committee to find up to $880 billion, if not more, in spending cuts, that means Medicaid. That will hurt children, hurt families, hurt everyday Americans with disabilities, and hurt seniors. I can't say it any other way. Republicans are lying. Prove me wrong. There's nothing more that I would like better, that we as House Democrats would like better, than for Republicans to prove us wrong, that they are not planning to cut Medicaid.
Thank you, Leader. With CR negotiations still ongoing, we've had some Democrats say that they feel the relationship between leadership on both sides is at the worst point it's been in a very long time. Can you describe your relationship with Speaker Johnson and Republican leadership?
Rosa DeLauro continues to lead the appropriations discussions on behalf of House Democrats. She's at the table. She's got a working relationship with Tom Cole, and let's see how those negotiations proceed.
But are you worried that any Democrats will work with Republicans to keep the government open?
Republicans have a responsibility to fund the government in a manner that meets the needs of the American people. We are going to continue to work hard to ensure that any spending agreement that is reached ultimately looks out for the health, the safety, the national security, and the economic well-being of the American people. We're focused on the core issues that matter, focused on the economy, focused on affordability. Us having gone down, they've gone up. Inflation is going up. What happened to lower grocery prices on day one? Last two questions.
Some Republicans frustrated over the talks right now have mentioned a year-long CR. Where do you see where Democrats stand on that in your viewpoint, not DeLauro's? And when do you step in when negotiations with DeLauro do not get as far as you hope when it comes to March 14th?
The negotiations are ongoing at this moment, led by Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro. In terms of any subsequent consideration of a year-long continuing resolution, that's a conversation that we'll have at the appropriate moment with the entirety of the House Democratic Caucus.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Can you just address more broadly sort of 2 points here? One, the president is coming next week to deliver the joint address, and I'm wondering what kind of response you expect from your side of the aisle. And secondly, can you just address the sort of conversation out there in the country among some Democrats, some progressive activists, who are just clamoring for their party to sort of do more at this moment, not just Tuesday, but writ large against what they see as, some see as an overreach, from the White House, and just a lot more than maybe voters might have been expecting.
It's not just an overreach from the Trump administration, it's an aggressive overreach. It's a parade of horribles
And so
that the administration has unleashed on the American people. And we have to continue to push back aggressively in every way possible in defense of the American people. Push back in the Congress, just like we did as it relates to the reckless Republican budget. We had members like Brittany Pedersen with her newborn baby who left Colorado with her newborn baby, Sam, brought him to the Congress because she understood the importance of standing on the side of the American people. We have members like Kevin Mullen, who was battling an infection after knee surgery, who literally left the hospital, got on a plane from Northern California, traveled with his wife because she needed to change his IV on the plane in order to make sure that every single Democratic voice was in the Congress on behalf of the American people to push back against the reckless Republican budget that will hurt everyday Americans. We're going to continue to aggressively push back in the Congress. We have to continue to push back aggressively in the courts. More than 100 different lawsuits have been filed related to over 35 different unconstitutional and illegal executive orders. Trump administration is not winning in court. They are losing in court, including most recently at the Supreme Court in a 7-2 decision. We know we can never trust Thomas and Alito to ever do the right thing. But the Trump administration just lost in court with respect to the Office of Special Counsel case in a 7-2 decision, and more will need to be done. And we'll continue to work with democracy reform groups as well as Democratic attorney generals to push back aggressively in court. And of course, we have to continue to push back aggressively in communities throughout America. The American people are taking notice of what's happening. We understand there's a lot of anxiety, concern, fear, shock, and anxiety as it relates to these events that continue to unfold. And House Democrats, of course, across the country, just like Brittany did, and just like Kevin Mullen did, will continue to rise to the occasion. Thank you.